Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of the DAN Show, and welcome to my 2021 NFL Draft Review. Now, let's be clear. I'm a football expert. I'm not a draft expert. And people ask me what makes me a football expert. Well, what makes me a football expert is that I'm going to bet my hard-earned money on the 2021 NFL season, and I'm going to come away with a profit. If you follow my show, I'll show you all my picks throughout the whole year, and you get to see firsthand, absolutely free, what I'm going to pick and what I'm making money with. Hopefully some of my ideas will make you some money. Now, look, I've gone out of my way not to watch any reviews or gradings of the draft. I'm going to do that the rest of the week after I release this video because I don't want to regurgitate what you're going to hear from either ESPN or the NFL Network. This is just my opinion and my opinion alone. Keep in mind, I'm a huge fan of the NFL draft, and this video is a conversation starter. I'm going to offer my opinion, and then I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below with what you think, and give me an idea of what your favorite team and what kind of grade you give your team on the draft. Now, here are the grades I have. I got one team, a winner, with an A+. I got one team that's got an A, two with an A-, 4 for a B+, 5 Bs, 4 B minuses, 2 C pluses, 3 Cs, 3 C minuses, 5 D pluses, and 2 Ds. Now, here's how I come up with my grade. It's a combination of draft grade. If you take a player in the first round who I think should have gone in the third round, you're not going to get a good grade. Again, if you draft a person I think should have gone in the first round, who you pick up in the third round, well, I'm going to give you a good grade. How you got your draft picks, what kind of trades did you make? Did you win your trade? Did you make a trade for a draft pick and overpay, underpay? That's going to go into it. Did you get your needs filled in the draft? If you needed a left tackle, for example, and you didn't draft the left tackle, you're not going to get a good trade. And I'm also taking into consideration, was a player available who I had rated better? Let's say you needed a tackle and you drafted a wide receiver. Same thing, hey, you could have chosen this player instead. So, and always, this is just my opinion. Again, this is just a conversation, a starter. And I'm going to start off with the 2 Ds, finish with the A+. I'm not going to go into extreme detail with all the draft grades. I'm going to give a quick overview to kind of keep this video as short as I possibly can. So let's start off with the 2 teams I gave Ds to. You have the Seattle Seahawks and the Las Vegas Raiders. And I gave these 2 teams Ds for different reasons. The Raiders draft wasn't terrible. Leatherwood and Morrig, they're going to start right away. But the safeties really confused me because you signed Carl Joseph in free agency and you get Morrig, who could take over as starting free safety. Why pick up another safety in rounds 3 and 4 for 3 total? Now, Diablo could be a linebacker, maybe, because he has linebacker size. But when I look at the Raiders, when they won a Super Bowl, when Gruden won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, he did it with Warren Sapp, first-round pick Booger McFarland, and Simeon Rice, who had 14 and a half sacks. He was an All-Pro that year. And then you had Derek Brooks as defensive MVP of the NFL. So you got an edge player in Malcolm Koonce in round 3. He's probably not going to start. But you didn't really address the defensive tackle position or the linebacker position unless Diablo plays linebacker. So they reached for almost every pick except for Morrig. That was a great pick. And they didn't address the front 7 nearly enough, specifically the defensive tackle position. Seattle 2 years ago turned 4 draft picks into 11. Now, part of that was with the Frank Clark trade. But you went from being the NFC favorite to losing in the wild card round of the playoffs. You needed to get better in this draft, and you only had 3 picks. I was really expecting Seattle to get creative, add some players. Now, Eskridge is an awesome player. He's going to help day one on special teams, and if he becomes wide receiver number 3, fantastic. That's a good pick. The other 2 players they reached for, I would have liked this draft a lot more if you traded down and still got the other 2 players with Eskridge. But bottom line, you're in a division where the Rams got better, the Cardinals got better. You really didn't, and you had an opportunity to get better in this draft, and you really didn't. The 5 teams I gave D pluses to are the Houston Texans, the Los Angeles Rams, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Indianapolis Colts, and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, with Houston Texans, basically I'm giving them a D plus, sins of the father. This is more for Bill O'Brien because you went ahead and you traded a lot of draft capital so you'd have a good team this year, and you won 4 games this year. So is it really fair that they get a D plus? No, it's not. But you know what? Life's not fair. Now, Davis Mills, your first pick, is in a perfect world, Davis Mills never sees the field. But getting him in the 3rd round was good. Now, if you have to give me a grade on the players the Houston Texans did draft, I'm probably giving them a B. They drafted some really good players. Mills and Nico Johnson in the 3rd round, those were really, really good picks. But they're going to get blamed for things they really didn't do and they weren't responsible for. Again, it's not fair, but I'm going to go ahead and give them a D plus. On the players they did draft, I'm giving them a B. All right, the Rams, I was really expecting left tackle to be the pick here. Tutu Atwell has speed. You get big arm Stafford, so you go ahead and get a deep threat. I get it. It makes sense. But Atwell in the 2nd round? Look, Andrew Whitworth turns 40. That's with a 4 in December. No left tackle. I thought that was a major mistake. I would have used the first pick that you had, in I think it was 57. That would have been left tackle. You could have got Atwell in round 3. All the players they drafted, backups, special team players, I didn't hate everything, but you needed a left tackle, and Atwell was a reach, so they get a D+. Philly, they get a D+ for the trade up. I thought if you got Devontae Smith at 12, I would have been okay about it, but Smith and Dickerson are really good players. They played with Jalen Hurts at Alabama, so I really like that. Gainwell in round 5 could end up being a potential steal, but trading up with Dallas of all teams to get a player that would have been there at 12, that's a mistake. I'm still not sold on Devontae Smith being a superstar in the NFL. Now, if he ends up being a Pro Bowl receiver, hey, I'll eat my words. I have no problems with it. But you should have got him at 12. You didn't have to help out your arch rival Dallas by trading up for him because he would have been there at 12. Indianapolis, I love Kwity Paye. He's one of my favorite players, plug-and-play guy. He'll probably have double-digit sacks as a rookie. I think he's going to be great, especially in Indianapolis. But you pick up Carson Wentz, whose biggest problem was that they had a mash unit of an offensive line in Philly. Your left tackle retires. You don't replace him in the draft. Why? You go ahead, you get Wentz. Your number one priority should be protecting him. You didn't address it at all in the draft. Now, I do like Kwity Paye. Very happy with Kwity Paye. You could have got somebody in the 2nd round. You decided not to do it. So major mistake by the Colts. And finally, San Francisco, who gave up 3 first-rounders over 3 years for Trey Lance. Here's the deal. Trey Lance shouldn't play in 2021. He should play in 2022. Look, you got 3 teams in the NFC West that are going to have double-digit wins this year. San Francisco's the exception, all right? They're giving up a top 10 pick in 2022. I'm going to tell you this right now. San Francisco's not going to be a good team next year because you're either going to start a guy who's not ready or you're going to sit him, and either way, you're not going to be a good team. Now, if Lance ends up being a Pro Bowl quarterback 5 years from now, eat my words, I have no problem with it. But bottom line, out of the 5 quarterbacks that went in the 1st round, this is the one that needs to sit. So you trade up to 3 to get him? No, that's a big mistake because you're giving up next year's number 1, which is going to be a high draft pick. Now, the players they did draft, I actually really like. Sermon could be a stud, but I would have been a lot happier with Justin Fields at 3 because he would have been able to start day 1. Lance will not. The 3 teams I gave C- to are the Buffalo Bills, the Chicago Bears, and the Green Bay Packers. Now, Buffalo took 2 really good defensive ends, and I really like both of these players. Don't get me wrong. They weren't bad players, but here's the problem I got is that you bring back Jerry Hughes, you bring back Mario Addison, you sign Obata from Carolina, but you got AJ Espinoza from last year's draft. Now, if you put Espinoza, Gregory Rousseau, and Carlos Boogie Basham in this year's draft together, I got AJ Espinoza ranked higher than the other two guys, and you picked Espinoza last year. So, look, your goal as the Buffalo Bills is to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You got beat up really bad in the AFC Championship game. If drafting these two players and you want to go a NASCAR route because that's how you want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which is your goal now, great. It makes sense. I'll revisit this. But when I looked at the Buffalo Bills, I thought a bigger issue was defensive tackle. Now, if you're going to take one of these guys, you're going to move them inside to defensive tackle, great. Then I would revisit this. But I'm taking it as is. You get edge players. You drafted an edge player in the second round last year. You have your two starters from last year. Then you go out in free agency. You get one. You needed a running back. You didn't even draft one. You needed a running back with speed to complement Moss and Singletary. You didn't do that, so that's why I give you a C-. Chicago, I love both trade ups, okay? I actually like Jenkins, and I love Fields, especially where you got him in the first round. But here's the problem I got with the Bears. They need to win this year. I think if the Bears don't make the playoffs this year, I think Nagy's gone. And the problem is that if you want to run the offense Nagy wants to run, Fields is going to need to sit out at least 1 year. Now, if you're going to change the offense, do a lot of RPOs, let them run the ball quite a bit, maybe throw him in for a series or two this year. But ideally, if you have Fields and you're Matt Nagy, you want to sit for a year. That way you can learn this very complex offense. Because at Ohio State, basically it was read one, read two, run. And that's a completely different offense than what the Bears are going to do. So if you're the Bears and you got a deal worked out where Fields can sit and Nagy's still going to stay on, then I would give this a higher grade. I'm giving it a C- because I think if Nagy doesn't make the playoffs this year, I think he's going to be gone. So that's why I'm giving it a C-. Fields and Jenkins, great picks. With Green Bay, I'm giving them a C- because I didn't like their draft. And then in the third round, they get Amari Rodgers, which was an absolute steal. He may be wide receiver number 2 as day one, but I think he will be wide receiver number 2. It's just a question of when. It will happen this year. I love this pick, but the first two picks I think were really reaches. And of all the years to ignore tackle, this was not the year to do it. There's lots of tackles available. You could have got one. It didn't make any sense to me. I gave 3 teams C's, and I gave them all for 3 different reasons. I got Carolina Panthers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and New Orleans Saints. The Carolina Panthers, the more I look at their draft, the more I like it. They got Davian Nixon in the 5th round. He may start as on the defensive line in that 3-3-5 defense. Chuba Hubbard, Tommy Tremble, both these guys are going to help. Terrence Marshall, I originally had mocked to Kansas City at 31. You get him at 59. I'm giving them a C because I really felt that their number one issue should have been protecting Darnold. You should have got a left tackle. Now, Brady Christensen, I thought would play guard. Now, if he can be a swing tackle or maybe left tackle eventually, I probably would give this draft a B, maybe even a B+. But not only did you pick the wrong position, what had you look at Horn over Surtain? Nobody else had this. Now, if Horn ends up being a better player than Surtain and Christensen can play tackle, I might give this a B, B+, A- grade. But bottom line, I really felt that Carolina should have took a tackle instead of a corner. And why did they have Horn over Surtain when nobody else did? Very questionable. But the rest of the draft, 2 through 7, maybe a B+, A-. Some really good players are going to contribute. Tampa Bay gets a C because they didn't really need anything. I thought Trask was a minor reach, but I get it. They didn't need anything. Joe Tron will probably contribute 1 or 2 series a game this year. He'll eventually take over for JPP. Really good player. Basically, you're Tampa Bay. You're bringing everybody back. You're the Super Bowl champs. This is the type of draft that you're supposed to have with all solid. The Saints, I really like their first 3 picks. You address every level of defense. You get defensive end, you get a linebacker, you get a corner. It's great. The problem is you lose Emmanuel Sanders and you lose Drew Brees. I really thought you should have got a wide receiver. Why did you draft Ian Book when you got Taysom Hill battling Jameis Winston for that quarterback position? I didn't get that at all. I thought that was a mistake. You could have you could have traded up maybe, got a wide receiver. I thought receiver was important for the Saints, but they didn't. I do like their first three picks. I like their first three picks a lot. I thought Book was a mistake, and no receiver till round 7. I didn't get that at all. Two teams got C pluses. It's Arizona Cardinals and Tennessee Titans. Now Arizona got two of my favorite players, but the problem is that last year they drafted Isaiah Simmons. They didn't use him right. They were public and they didn't use him right. So they drafted Xavier Collins, and you're going to use him right. Well, when I look at Collins, I think he would have been better suited alongside Simmons as an inside linebacker. You're going to use him as a strong side outside linebacker. I'm not 100% sure that's where he's supposed to go, even though most people think he play outside linebacker. He was really best suited in pass coverage and being away from the ball, not on the ball. So I'm just having flashbacks of drafting Isaiah Simmons, number 8, not using him right. I'm seeing the same thing here. But if you are going to use him right and you can get the most out of Collins, this is a great draft pick. Rondale Moore adds instant explosion to this team. He's chosen by the right team, the right coach, the right system. To be honest, if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I don't even want to see him play during the regular season. I want him healthy in the playoffs. All I need from him is 5 touches a game. In a perfect world, have a healthy Rondale Moore in the playoffs. Give him 5 touches in a playoff game, and that's all you need. Instant explosion. Not really going to play just wide receiver. I think he's going to play special teams. He's going to be used tailback. I think you get very creative with him. Had problems staying healthy in college. Don't expect him to play 17 in pros. Tennessee got some really good corners. Now, Farley can stay healthy. I'd give Tennessee's grade an A. And you also got Raduz. He's a very solid second round pick. But my favorite pick is Elijah Molden late in the 3rd round. Special teams demon who can play inside, outside, maybe even use him back at free safety. Vrabel's going to love this kid. They did get some projects at wide receiver in the 4th and the 6th round. Now, if one of these players ends up being a solid number 2 receiver, this draft grade goes maybe up to a B+. I gave them a C+ because I really thought that going into the draft, wide receiver should have been a much higher priority. They really didn't address that. And this is a team that I'm glad you got corners, but I really felt like you needed another wide receiver. Again, if one of these late round picks hits, then I'll probably give this draft a B+ grade. 4 teams get a B-. I got the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Washington football team. Now, Miami rolled the dice with their draft capital, and with their first 4 picks, they may get 4 starters. And if these guys all pan out, not only are they making the playoffs, they're probably going to win the AFC East. They got 4 really talented players here. Now, Waddle and Phillips in picks 6 and 18, you have some question marks, okay? You got some health issues with both of these players. I love what you did because you had lots of draft picks. You rolled the dice. I love it. But there are some question marks. That's why you get a B-. If they pan out, you're not only making the playoffs, you may win the East. So I love the high risk, but in high risk, you get a B- grade. The Jets got very aggressive. They traded up for Elijah Vera Tucker. I love the move. But if you're going to trade up for a guard all the way to 14, it has to pan out. When I say pan out, he's got to be a Pro Bowl caliber guard. You can't just be an average starting guard when you trade up from, 23 to 14. You got to have a Pro Bowl player. You take a guard at 14, he's got to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. Carter in round 4 is very interesting, especially for this offense. I think it could be a really good pick. They had 3 picks in the 5th and 6th round. 5 of those players were defensive backs. It's something I'm kind of going to watch. I wonder how many of these guys are going to stay on the team, how many are going to contribute. Very interesting thing to pay attention to. Pittsburgh gets a running back in first round. They get Freiermuth, who I thought at 55 could be a real steal. They only get a B minus because they addressed the tackle late in the fourth round. And I know you used your third and fourth round picks to help build up the offensive line. I just thought left tackle should have been a higher priority. Najee Harris gives you that stud running back you haven't had since Le'Veon Bell left. I get it. Great pick. Freiermuth, great pick. But I really thought that left tackle should have been really addressed in this earlier than round 4. That's why you get B minus. The Washington football team, I thought got some real steals. All right. They got Sam Cosmi, Dyami Brown, and Derek Forrest. They got Forrest in the 5th round. This guy could be a starter. Davis at 19, I thought was a real reach. Okay. But Luke Kuechly at 8, I thought that was a major reach. I remember when Ron Rivera drafted Luke Kuechly, I was like, man, this is a big reach. I don't think he's worth the 8th pick in the draft. Well, he became defensive MVP. Probably going to be in Canton someday. So I'm giving some slack to Ron Rivera picking Jamin Davis as high as he did. I still think it's a reach. That's why you got B minus. But you got some really, really good players. I actually really like the Washington football team's draft. It's only B minus because Davis at 19 is still a reach, even though I like it for Ron Rivera. 5 teams get a B. I got the Cincinnati Bengals. I got the Dallas Cowboys. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I got the Los Angeles Chargers and the New York Giants. Now, Cincinnati, I could really argue they should have a higher grade. I really thought that they should have took either Pitts or Chase, whichever one's available. In this draft, it was Jamar Chase. He's going to reunite with Joe Burrow. Absolutely love this pick. Then in the second round, you trade down. You still get your offensive line help, which I think is awesome. A really smart move. And then you get Asai and Sample in rounds 3 and 4. Both these guys could end up starting or just simply contributing as pass rushers. Some really good picks by the Cincinnati Bengals here. And you also get Evans in round 6. I think he makes the team, and I think he ends up being a backup running back. Really like what the Cincinnati Bengals did in this draft. Dallas, another team I think it could have a higher draft grade. I love what they did. They went from 10 to 12 in this draft. You still end up with Micah Parsons, who a lot of people thought was the best defensive player in the draft. The problem that I have is you already got Jalen Smith and LVE, and they primarily play nickel. So how often is Parsons going to get on the field? Now, if you have him on the field year 1, let's just say 40% of the time, I'm probably giving this draft a B plus, maybe even an A minus. The funny thing is that you got Jabril Cox in round 4. That guy actually fits the defense a lot better than Parsons does. But if you get Parsons on the field with these other 2 linebackers and it works, then you probably have a much higher grade than a B, which is very solid already. I love fixing the defense. You get help on all 3 levels. The question is, can you get all 3 linebackers on the field at the same time? You played a lot of nickel last year. So are you going to play a standard 4-3 defense this year? That's the big question. Jacksonville gets their quarterback. I love Travis Etienne reuniting with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. I think it's a great move. Urban Meyer worked on College Game Day, and I love a lot of his late round picks. The only reason I'm giving this draft a B is because I really thought that both picks in the second round were reaches, but overall, absolutely love this pick. Plus, like I said, Urban Meyer worked on College Game Day. He knows these players very, very well. I'm not really questioning Urban Meyer here, but the reason why I give him a B and only a B, I could make an argument that all 3 of the teams I've gone over so far should have higher grades. But I do think that both picks in the second round were reaches. They could have gotten them a little later. The Chargers also get a B. They get a really good grade here. Slater at 13. He ends up being your day 1 starter at left tackle. That's just an absolute steal. You also get a defensive playmaker in Asante Samuel Jr. in round 2. That's what you need. Look at this division you're in. You got some really good quarterbacks, and get a defensive playmaker in that secondary. I also really like getting Rumpf in round 4. And they also got a 6th-round linebacker, Nick Niemann. I bet you he makes the team. I bet you he contributes. Really good draft by the Chargers. And then the Giants, they ended up trading down, getting Kadarius Toney, one of my favorite players in the draft. They also get Azeez Ojulari, a guy that I had going originally to the Giants at 11. You get him in the 2nd round. I think he starts, and he could be an absolute monster. Now, I do love Kadarius Toney, but there is a question because he's a slot guy. You already got a slot guy in Sterling Shepard, so Toney helps on special teams, and he does add a playmaking dimension to this offense, but I was a little questioning because are you just going to have 2 slot receivers? I would prefer the tall, more physical guy on the outside, not having 2 inside guys, but Toney does add some playmaking. Ojulari could be an absolute monster, so watch out, NFC East. 4 teams get a B+. You get the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, the Denver Broncos, and Kansas City Chiefs. The Baltimore Ravens, I thought, made a great trade before the draft. You get a 1st, a 3rd, and a 4th. You give back a 2nd for a player that you're ready to move on from. You drafted Tyree Phillips in the 3rd round of last year. He's going to be your starting right tackle. And then this year in the 3rd round, you draft Ben Cleveland. He's probably going to start day 1. Absolute great pick in the 3rd round. But you get in the 1st round, you get Rashad Bateman. You add him with Sammy Watkins, a major upgrade in the wide receiver core. This is a major issue you had to deal with. Look, you played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. You scored 3 points. You got 2 big-time wide receivers here. Thought in free agency, getting Sammy Watkins was a big deal. But because he's had problems staying healthy, get Rashad Bateman. Could end up being a better player. Very interesting problem that Baltimore has, where before they had an issue with wide receivers. Now you got a couple studs. Odafe Oweh was Jason. Now the NFL Network calling him Odafe. So it doesn't matter. Immensely talented. This guy's going to take over from Matthew Judon. There's no ceiling for how good this guy will be. It's just a question of can you get the potential out of him? And if you do, like I said, there's no ceiling on how good this kid could be. So he is going to play quite a bit, and he should contribute. Very athletically gifted. If you're not aware, this is a 6'5", 250-pound defensive end, outside linebacker, ran a 4.36 at the pro day. You also got some late round steals in Tylan Wallace and Sean Wade in the 4th and 5th round. These are players that are going to make the team and they're going to contribute. Some really great steals late in the draft by the Baltimore Ravens. Cleveland, another team to get a B+ too. I thought really needs some linebacker help. To tell you the truth, I thought they at first made a mistake in drafting Newsome. I thought they should have got JOK instead, but instead of choosing, they get both. Getting JOK in round 2 is an absolute steal because he's going to start day 1. The only issue I got with Newsome is it's really good value, but you get Greedy Williams coming back. I'm not sure which one of these guys would play in the slot. Now you got Denzel Ward, who's your Pro Bowl corner on the outside. He can play inside. All right, but he's already a Pro Bowl corner on the outside, so you got lots of corners. But if Newsome or Williams can play inside, this is a great fit for the Cleveland Browns. You can never have too many good corners, especially in this division. My only question is, can Williams or Newsome play inside and play at a high level inside, because they're more suited for outside, and you already got Pro Bowl corner on the outside. But JOK, day 1 starter. Hudson in the 4th round is an absolute steal. All right. There was some talk about him possibly going in the 1st round, get him in the 4th round. Big steal. Great draft by the Cleveland Browns. Denver Broncos, I thought, did a fantastic job. They didn't take a quarterback like everybody thought they would. At pick number 9, you get Patrick Surtain. He's going to be Denver's number 1 corner, whether it's late in this year or in 2022. I think this guy's going to be a Pro Bowl corner. I think this is a great pick. I also thought then you trade up for Williams. Melvin Gordon's a free agent after the season. You get a guy who's really gifted. I've always been very high on Melvin Gordon. Now you got a true 1-2 punch, because Williams is a guy, if you're a fantasy football owner, keep an eye on this guy, especially in fantasy leagues. Maybe you'll get this guy cheap. I think he'll be Denver starter. I think that Melvin Gordon will move on, but if you can re-sign him, great 1-2 punch. My favorite pick was the very last pick in the third round. You get a former 5-star linebacker Baron Browning, who's God build me an inside linebacker. You're building Baron Browning. He just was inconsistent in college. Now you put him with a long-time linebacker coach in Vic Fangio. Great move by the Denver Broncos. Now, Denver had several late-round picks. They got a couple safeties. Both these guys are going to make the team. Both these guys are going to contribute. They had some really good steals late in the draft, some really good picks. Denver really had a fantastic draft. Kansas City also got a B+. I am factoring that they really needed to address the left tackle position. I thought they gave up too much trade capital to get Orlando Brown, but even without a first-round pick, they get a first-round talent, Nick Bolton, at 58. This is an absolute steal. Then you go ahead and you get Creed Humphrey at 63. There was some talk about Humphrey maybe going late first round. He should have gone 15, 20 picks sooner. 2 absolute steals. The only issue I have with Humphrey is that the Kansas City Chiefs have a very complex offense, so I don't know if he starts at center right away. He will be the Chiefs starting center. So really good draft picks by the Kansas City Chiefs. Joshua Kendoa, perfect pick for Kansas City in the third round. I don't like him for all teams because this is a former 5-star player. Tall, long, athletic, doesn't have the production. Motor is off and on. Perfect fit for Kansas City. Not a good fit for all teams because he's exactly what you want at a defensive end in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Long and athletic. You just got to find a way to turn the motor up. Kansas City's been famous for being able to do that because if he does turn the motor up, he's got Pro Bowl defensive end all over it. The last 2 picks in the draft are really interesting. Powell's a very talented receiver, just didn't really show it in college. He'll get an opportunity to make the squad as the Chiefs' 4th, 5th wide receiver. Does have a lot of athleticism. And Trey Smith, the last pick that Kansas City made in the 6th round, this is a guy the NFL Network had him going in the 3rd round. He definitely should have gone a few rounds sooner. The Chiefs have had some success with later picks in the offensive line. Don't be surprised that Trey Smith ends up being a starting guard in 2022 for Kansas City. 2 teams get an A-. It's the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions. And what I like about the Atlanta Falcons in drafting Kyle Pitts is, hey, let's forget about the future. Let's win now. I actually thought they would take a quarterback and prepare for the future because normally you get teams with a new general manager and a new head coach and a 36-year-old quarterback. It's normally time to think long-term, not the Atlanta Falcons. They're thinking win now. You also get Jalen Mayfield in the 3rd round. A lot of people thought he'd go in the 1st round. A lot of people thought he'd go in the 1st round and get him in top of the 3rd. Now, part of the Atlanta Falcons getting an A- is you get Dean Pease. He's a very well-respected defensive coordinator who coached in Baltimore. He coached in Tennessee. By the way, did you notice how bad Tennessee's defense was last year? That's a Dean Pease effect. So him coming to Atlanta, I think is going to have an instant impact. They got a pair of defensive front 7 players in the 5th round. Not a big issue for most teams. It is important in a Dean Pease defense because you're going from a 4-3 to a 3-4 hybrid. You need athletic players along that front 7. Plus, you also got Frank Darby in the 6th round. I watched him out of Arizona State. I like this kid. I think he makes the team. Plus, you get Richie Grant in the back end. Look at the division you're in. You need speed and athleticism in the secondary. Richie Grant adds that. Really like what the Falcons did in this draft. Detroit's the other team I gave an A- to. And I love how they're building this team. They're building it from the inside out. And a lot of times fans don't like it when you take offensive and defensive linemen, but that's what you needed. Sewell, great pick at 7, but I love what the Lions did in the 2nd and 3rd pick. They got a couple of defensive tackles. I thought this was possibly the slowest front 7 in all of football. They had some defensive tackles that really don't fit the new defense. These 2 tackles do, so you got speed and athleticism. Again, it's inside out, so you get a couple of defensive tackles. You got some speed and athleticism along that defensive line, something that's very necessary and something Detroit really lacked last year. Melifanu, this is a guy I had mocked at pick number 56, second round pick to the Seattle Seahawks. Detroit gets him at the end of the third round. Not a good fit for all teams. Perfect for Detroit. 6 foot, 6'2", 215, 220 pound corner, big, physical, perfect for the NFC South with the 6'2" Justin Jefferson, 6'2" Devontae Adams. You need big physical corners. Perfect fit for Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown actually had a second round grade on this kid. The Lions get him in the fourth. A perfect number 2 receiver. Here's a guy you get in the fourth round. He's going to be a day one starter. And Lions fans, the last pick you had, Jamar Jefferson, I watched this kid play out of Oregon State. I like this kid. He's going to make the team. Keep an eye out on this kid. He's going to look really good in preseason. You're really going to like this kid. I gave an A to the Minnesota Vikings. I love the trade down because if they stayed at 14, they were going to take Darrisaw at 14. Instead, you traded down to 23. You still get your starting left tackle. If you watch my channel long enough, I cannot emphasize the importance of a left tackle. So you get a guy who could be a Pro Bowl left tackle. Some people thought this is the second best left tackle in the draft. Some people actually thought he was the best pure left tackle in the draft because there are some questions about Sewell and Slater's length. There was no question about Darrisaw's length. The reason why a lot of people thought he was the number 3 left tackle was he plays smooth. Some people questioned the work ethic. It's not going to be an issue on a Mike Zimmer team. While you're trading down, you got some extra third-round picks. You get Kellen Mond, who is built for this type of offense. Basically, that zone blocking scheme allows a lot of bootlegs, throwing on the run. Those are Kellen Mond's strengths. He's got a good arm athleticism. Don't be surprised in the next couple of years to see Kellen Mond start. And this is a perfect offense for Kellen Mond. You also get Kellen Mond in the third round. I actually thought he'd go in the second. Great fit. Chaz Surratt, another guy I thought would go in the second. He goes in the third. Perfect for a Mike Zimmer defense. Zimmer's really going to love this kid. And then the 2 other picks in the third round, you had 4 total. Wyatt Davis, Patrick Jones, both these guys are great fits for this team. Both these guys could end up being starters. Now, I actually went to Central Missouri State University for 1 year. And so it's kind of interesting. Zach Davidson from Central Missouri has some athleticism, but he also doubles as a punter. So you get an athletic tight end who could end up being your starting punter in the 6th round. Kind of interesting. Ultimately, I give the Vikings an A because you needed a left tackle. You traded down. You still got them. You got 4 potential starters in the third round. If Kellen Mond starts at all, watch out. This could be a really good quarterback for this team. Ideally, he's your backup. But if he does start, Kirk Cousins should be worried because Mond's a perfect fit for this team. A grade for the Minnesota Vikings. Great draft. Now, before I reveal the only A-plus grade in the 2021 NFL draft, I got to tell you the only way to really determine if a team had a good draft or not is about 5 years in the future. You get to look over, you get to see all production. But as of today, as of right now, the winner of the 2021 NFL Draft is the New England Patriots. Let's start off. If you're not familiar, Nick Saban was Bill Belichick's first defensive coordinator when Bill Belichick took over as head coach of the Cleveland Browns in 1994. But their history goes all the way back to the Parcells days in the 80s. So these guys have known each other for about, I think it's over 50 years. So an Alabama player going to New England means a lot more than another school going to New England. Then you got Christian Barmore in the second round. I actually thought he would go to the Raiders at 17. Instead, the Patriots trade up and get him. This is an absolute steal because the Patriots got good secondary players. They got good linebackers. They didn't really have a stud on the defensive line until now. Now they got one. And then you also have Ronnie Perkins late in the third round. There was some talk about him going late first, early second. Now you get him late in the third. Not a great fit for all teams because he's kind of a hybrid defensive end, outside linebacker. Not a good fit for all teams. Perfect for the New England Patriots. And then they also get Cameron McGrone, redshirt sophomore, late in the fifth round. Not a big deal for all teams. Here's the deal. The last 3 years, Michigan's drafted a positionless player from Michigan. Michigan rotates their players all over the defensive front seven. You don't just line up in one position. You line up all over, on the ball, off the ball. So you drafted Winovich 2 years ago. Last year's Josh Uche. Fifth round came in McGrone. Now he's probably going to stick to just being an inside linebacker. It's kind of what his thing is. Not a big deal for all teams. Perfect for New England. And then their fourth round pick, Ramondre Stevenson's his last name. I watched this kid play at Oklahoma. Didn't play the whole season for OU, but when he did play, he was actually MVP of their bowl game. This guy's a monster, 230 plus pound running back. Not a good fit for all teams. Great fit for what New England wants to do. Power runner with some speed and receiving ability. New England's going to absolutely love this kid. Now, here's the drill with New England's draft. After Mac Jones, their next 4 picks, I think Barmore will end up starting. The other 3 are going to contribute right away, have a major impact on this team. Once Mac Jones gets a hold of the offense, ideally it's 2022. Don't be surprised if he starts sometime this season. Then New England's going to be very dangerous. In my opinion, I think New England hands down won this draft, but again, you're not going to know until about 5 years from now. So here's the drill. Like this video, put a comment below with what you agree with, what you disagree with. Put a comment below on what you think your team did. Now Friday, I'm going to go over this a little more detail and maybe make some updates and changes. So look, if you're new here, you watch the whole thing, join me Friday, 7:15 Central Standard Time. So hey man, I'll see you on Friday night.